Kia ora, everybody. My last episode, Tim Caverman left me with living at the edge of your comfort zone. And right now I'm paddling well out in the ether, trying to get my chin above water, because I'm sitting down here with Morgan Penn. And those that don't know yet, she was the trainee sexologist. Now you're a sexologist, mate.
Yeah, I'm all certified.
So that's probably quickly turning some people off. So let's bring them back in because we want to turn them on. The other thing Tim said is know your audience, and my audience is 80% male. I think my Instagram is basically that too. So why do you think a conversation with a sexologist would be appealing to some males? Like, it's pretty obvious, but let's hear your opinion.
Well, Ryan, I think there'd be multiple reasons. And I guess a lot of the men that reach out to me for help are looking for libido help,
Right.
and erectile dysfunction and unhealthy porn habits. So, I mean, everybody wants better sex, right? We want to feel good in our bodies, we want to feel confident, and we want to be making sure that the sex that we're having, either with ourselves or with other people, is spicy and lovely and delicious. And so, yeah, I can help support that.
Marvelous. So already I'm having a sympathetic nervous system reaction, and it's just from, I think, vocalizing the word sex and you know, potentially going to be talking for an hour about it. What do you know, it's pretty obvious with New Zealand as a country, a colonialist country, that we're pretty top button, done up. You know, we've all been through schools with uniforms. What do you think it is about just saying word sex that straight away gets this somatic reaction? And it's quite fascinating sitting, I mean, I'm just sitting here in a cupboard and talking to you across Zoom, but my heart rate's going through the roof.
You're upregulated. If you were my client, I would say, like, how do you want to use that? How do you want to move that through your body? You know, how do we harness this energy? Because it's kind of juicy, right? It's like, oh, what is that feeling in my body? We need to be down-regulated to really feel into our bodies and to get arousal, but then we use up-regulation to like build that arousal and to let things simmer into like a peak, I guess. But anyways, I digress. But do you want me to down-regulate you, or are you happy to stay there up-regulated?
I'm sure this is very similar to exposure technique, and the more I breathe and the more we talk and relate, that the more I'll calm down. So for those, and I'm included here, what is a sexologist?
Okay, maybe the easiest way to explain it is I'm kind of like what a nutritionist is to food.
Wow.
I've studied the food, which would be sex, all the behaviors around it, all the chemicals, all the things that happen to the body during it, and how to maximize it, really, how to have the best sex and how to navigate all these different bits that get thrown at us from our conditioning, you know, really young as children, and then we find ourselves as adults not necessarily having the right education and knowing what to do with ourselves or with partners.
I think that right there is pretty massive. You know, with access to the internet and you know, we're talking across the internet, you know, and even when I look at myself sort of growing up with, you know, this will age me or not, MSN and then texting and then Facebook and now Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and all, you know, I've been at the infancy of all those things. And I was hearing something today talking about how technology is everything that happens after birth. What you're born into the world is just part of your life, and that's part of your framework. So for you and I, we've evolved with the technology, but now there's this cohort of people that the technology is their life. And so you're hearing stories of, you mentioned porn addiction, you're hearing stories of 8-year-old boys having access to porn and what that's meaning. Is that sort of, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what are sort of some of the drivers that got you started at looking into this profession and way of life? You started out in radio, is that correct?
Yeah, I'd only ever really done radio, and so I'd had 15 years in that industry, And I loved it because I was allowed to have full expression of myself in this creative industry. And that's really important to me. I've always liked to show up authentically, and I have always been a little bit wild. And within that freedom, I could see there was kind of this sexual energy in that industry, and I've seen it throughout the media realms. And I saw a lot of unhealthy sexuality going on as well, really leaky sexual energy. And then I guess I've just always been curious about sex. I think I touched myself quite young, you know. I was always very curious about my own body, and then growing up to find that it was a taboo thing out in the world. I guess like shocking people. I enjoy shocking people about it, asking people about their sex life and sharing things about mine that quite a few people were like, oh, who the hang is this gal? But to me, it was all about normalizing these conversations. And anybody that I ever did have a conversation with just loved it. And they just hadn't really had the opportunity or a safe container to talk about it and explore things. So I guess I just wanted more and more of that. And then when I learned about things like that, there were people that were sex therapists and sexologists, I was like, that's me. Like, I have to do it. And I feel like as a woman with my own sexual journey, I feel like I allowed a lot from men, things that I necessarily didn't really want, or I didn't know how to put my pleasure first or ask for what I really wanted. And I guess I got even curiouser about that. Like, why is that? I'm a pretty strong, hearty woman in the world. Why am I not getting what I want? I sure did hell was in my radio career. You know, why was I not asking for it in the bedroom or in the kitchen or in the laundry? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, through that line of inquiry, I was like, this is where I want to support people to get what they want, to learn what turns them on, how to have more pleasure. And yeah, I don't know, everything just happened. I said yes to it, and now here I am, done the podcast, and I'm in love with my new career.
Awesome. So there's not many jobs out there that you sort of, you know, take a right turn in and go, right, I'm going to go do this. And what were some of the reactions?
My mum thought I was joining a sex cult.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. And then I would like go around to her house on a Sunday afternoon, and she'd her girlfriends over, and they'd be having gins, and they'd be like, oh, how's it going learning how to be a sex worker? I was like, yeah, look, I'm not, you know, Mum didn't know how to explain it to her friends. And some people were like, oh yes, of course you're going to do that, of course. And it's been great, because actually, like, the transition out of radio has really helped, because it's also given me a platform to do the podcast, which allows me to speak openly and freely about sex. And then because nobody really is flying the sex positive flag in New Zealand too much, the media has kind of, you know, taken to me and uses me for little segments on the news and when there's stories to cover. So yeah, it was sort of just like meant to be. All the radio and all the connections I've made over the years, it's all sort of fitted in. So there's, you know, I think my dad was a bit shocked, but you know, who cares?
Yeah, I always remember, I think it was like Edge's early days back, you know, they'd have sort of their countdowns at night time, and then they'd get on doctors and I think George as well, they get the doctor and every now and again, and they ask some types of questions. But then, you know, the age of podcasting, being able to sit down with Sharyn and get questions and get thoughts and talk through what you learned, what's sort of been the response like that in a radio sphere but outside of the broadcast?
Yeah, it's been a mixed bag, but all positive. And I think because I was learning and sharing as I went, it's not like I just turned up like, hey, I'm a sexologist, this is how I'm going to tell you to have good sex. You know, I literally had these weird assignments every week, like the one where I had to, you know, explore my own bumhole. And so I shared that, you know, with everybody, how I did that to myself for the first time and how shocking that was. it kind of gave other people permission to explore themselves as well. And then they felt like I was a safe person to share with. So you just would not believe the things I've heard with people sharing, which is, that's sacred information. And I feel really honored that people would share and be learning and improving. And yeah, I love it. I love the feedback from people. Some people that have never had clear communication with a partner about what they like, they've mustered up the courage to ask for something or try something new. Like one person who followed the whole journey and would give me a message after every episode has then become a client once I certified, and I ended up coaching her and her partner, who've been together for over 10 years, into a foursome. That's what she wanted to explore. And so she was on my journey of learning, and then I've been on her journey of progressing her sexual life.
That's amazing. And yeah, you said about the bumhole stuff. I got introduced to your podcast shortly after I had Jay Reeve on the podcast, and a friend of mine said, that was great podcast you did. Have a listen to this one with Jay, and sure enough, what an absolute cracker. How good was it to have two blokes on there, and just you didn't hold any bars back. It was all go, especially with Jay. Yeah, that guy could talk it.
Absolutely. And I think it's just so refreshing for men to hear other men speak openly, especially around butt stuff, because I think there is this little bit of mentality around, oh, that's gay, or there's negative, or that's gross, or we don't talk about that. But it's like, that is such a huge pleasure center that, I would urge any prostate owner to get in there and have a good time, a good feel around, and see what feels good. Because if you don't, what did Jay say? It's like, if you're not exploring it, you're only flying at half mast.
Yeah, it's pretty crack up. And and I know for myself, for a long time there, as you said, you get to your 20s or wherever it is, and you sort of feel lost at a time, and you kind of feel like, well, what is it about this thing? Am I even attracted to this thing? What is it that I'm doing? And it wasn't even until this year that I sort of figured out I guess it was almost overcompensation, like dating and I guess trying to search out sex for connection and that sort of stuff. And parallel person, similar age over in the States, and he was saying about how his interaction with men was always tarnished by the fact that he didn't want to come across too emotional because it'd be gay. And I was like, and I was like, that was similar but not the same for me. Growing up in Invercargill, guys that third form thought they were my friends, and then all of a sudden they just started calling me gay instead of using my name. And so that created this whole overcompensation thing around females liking girls or having girlfriends, trying, as a teenager, or when you have sex, and all the things you're exposed to, as I said, social medias and movies like American Pie come to mind, and Road Trip and that sort of stuff. And you sort of are in this lost, navigating it on your own. Now to have a platform like Trainee Sexologist, and I don't know what you guys are calling the next season, but to have a platform out there that's sexually educational, and you can just listen into your ears, is why I think this topic and talking to you is hugely important. Because now being a father and having a daughter, it's kind of like, wow, where do we navigate this now? And we're so lucky that we got access to so much information.
Yeah, see, that's really interesting to hear. And I guess you wouldn't have had much awareness around what you were doing, or did you think?
None at all. Like I said, it was kind of like the start of the year, end of last year, though. I heard this person say it, and I was like, it was like an unraveling of I guess, reasons behind behaviors.
Yeah. And do you think that would be for the average Kiwi bloke, that would be quite a normal thing?
Oh shit, yeah. And I don't know. I feel quite proud that in the last couple of weeks I've had a new friend come to me and say that they're thinking that they're bisexual, and it's kind of like, well, one, great that that person now lives in an environment where that's comfortable to tell a new friend who's a guy that they think they're bisexual, and two, me being a bloke from Invercargill that played rugby for a while, goes hunting and things, I'm approachable and obviously confiding and confident enough to accept that information. And I was just like, and it's a big way since the 13-year-old me.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you're a safe place for him. What I'm really curious, like, what do you think that our young men need most support in around sexuality and beliefs, or that whole sort of sexual realm?
Yeah, I guess we've had plenty of conversations back and forth, and I think a big part of my maturity with that, or lack of, was to do with the shame and growing up as Catholic, like shame around sexuality, and then on the flip side, like you say, it's arousal, it's pleasurable, it's great feelings, and feeling guilt and shame about this thing that's sort of natural. And I guess it would probably be someone saying it's okay, and they are, and removing feelings and emotions and breaking those things down, because I think it also ties into our emotional what's EQ, intelligence in this country as males, and it's really broad. I think it's spanning across the mental health aspect, it's spanning across the addiction aspects, and then it's spanning across, what would you call it, sexual leaks.
Leaky sexual, yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear from the other side of the fence what you sort of see as, something that our children, what you think might need.
Yeah, I think our rangatahi, our children, need a lot of education around their own bodies and the opposite sex bodies, and pleasure, how to give ourselves pleasure. We're not really taught about that. So I always think about those youth who've got all these hormones running through their bodies, right? And they don't know what to do with it. And they think that, they go looking externally because they're not taught how to really enjoy their own bodies, and that pleasure and that form is not shameful, and they shouldn't feel guilty about exploring their bodies. But in most households, touching yourself as a child, that's bad, that's naughty, don't do it. Parents don't know really how to handle it, and so it from that conditioning is so damaging that then that gets brought right through into this age of exploration as a teenager. And then they do. They look to things like porn if they're not getting the right education. And then that porn is normally telling us all sorts of bad stuff, like how to, if it's cis hetero porn, then it's, normally quite destructive and violent towards women. And we've normalized anal through that. And for young people, that is actually an issue. I've heard of a friend who's a teacher. They had to have a meeting with the board, the community board, with the school, with the local police, because this whole group of sort of 12 and 13-year-olds were all having anal sex, and young women were having to go into the hospital for stitches. There was just such a rise in it that it was an issue in their community that they had to all deal with, and it had come from porn. So it really is an education. There's just such a lack in this country, because, you mentioned the Catholic faith before. It depends what school you're at as to what kind of an education you're going to get, because the mandatory curriculum is so small. It's literally mainly about birth control. They never go into pleasure, and they put the fear of life into kids, that the worst thing that can happen is, STIs or a pregnancy. It's what about, we never get taught about aftercare, about looking after the person once you've had sex with them, of any kind of sex. It's sort of this dine and dash kind of thing these days.
Yeah.
So big.
That is, looking back at that exploration, there's such a void of like getting to the act, and especially as a teenager, it was often a rush, and in the urgency type of way, not in the like this is exciting type of way. And then afterward, what a void that's left, and the but like emotions, the vocabulary and the intelligence to know what's the next step, because that's not being taught. And this is another thing we talked about the other day. We need gigantic empathy to those that have come before us, because imagine where their starting point is from. Like, you think about the Catholic faith, like, shit, you're going to hell.
Totally. I'm I look at my mum's generation, and she did think I was joining a sex cult, but she was also very open to everything, and she has learnt so much because she didn't get taught anything like this, and she hasn't, she doesn't listen to podcasts or anything like that, sort of that, the old boomer generation that bit slow on these things. But she's been getting the mirror out and checking out her own genitals and learning about consent, and looking back on her life at all these times where she wished she had a clearer boundary, or could, her boundaries have been violated, but because the education wasn't there properly about consent back in the day, it just wasn't a thing. So you're right, the generations and having empathy for what's gone before and what their knowledge base is. And that's why it is our job. If we know better, we do better, and we educate, and we can lead by example, I suppose.
Yeah. And I guess with that empathy for others, there's probably a lot of empathy and I don't know about acceptance, but I guess that means that you can say that the situation happened and move forward and learn from it. But to not feel shame for a lot of the sort of mistakes that you made, because when you don't have any education around something, you're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And like we're humans, like we are these cute little humans. We don't know how to do life. We're all just like trying our best, but we want to relate, and we've got this hunger to touch people. Like how cute are we that we've found like the lips, like this is our place to connect.
Yeah.
It's we're so gorgeous, and you're right, we have to have this compassion and love for ourselves in our curiosity and our explorations. And yes, we're not always going to get it right, but if we're always searching to do things better and learn new things, I think that's where the magic lies. And I think that's why there will be a rise in professions like mine, because people are now searching for better ways to do things and to improve. And I think this is a place where people haven't really gone to improve before, or to seek help for a lot of things. They've just put up with a lot. And it's time, people are wanting more and wanting better lives. So yeah.
No, that's really cool. Now, probably, I had Elizabeth Grace on here before, and a lot of people are sort of going, Ron, like, where's your grounding in this type of stuff? And those that don't know, before I got into optometry, and optometry is a lot about autonomic nervous system, which is very much connected to our sexuality. And prior to that, I needed to do a BSc to get in, because I didn't get in straight away. And so I did anatomy at Otago University. And in the two things that I sort of honed in on was reproduction and neurobiology. And so I often talk about how I see the world from the autonomic nervous system, and it comes in very handy with optometry. But then it also allows me to see my patient, and often you'll see that comorbidity of a reproductive disease or disorder. How much of sort of reproduction out do you see the world?
Wow. I mean, okay, my brain just went to a crazy place there, because I know the level that you're asking, but where I went was, because I'm a visionary, I see vulvas everywhere. I see them in coffee beans, and in clouds, and in flowers, and my world is all about that. But wait, hang on. I've got a question for you now about the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so when you were learning about it, did you learn about like with hand, because I'm a somatic sexologist, so I am allowed to work hands-on with touching the body. So did you learn about the only two ways of actually touching the autonomic nervous system?
You're talking about breath work and orgasm, like how orgasm
No, I'm
goes?
talking about how like you can physically, how can you touch it?
No.
So you can go up the butt or you can go down this way, which is like way harder, right? So you got to get it, you got to get to the soft muscle.
Right. Yes, I see.
But
Yeah.
so you and I, we've talked about breath work. I know that's really big for you and is also big in my work for that very reason. But the quickest way to like touch and like alter the autonomic nervous system is through up the bum hole. And you can do it with a finger, or a vibrating butt plug will absolutely down regulate the whole system. You will be in like a state of bliss.
Right. So are you able to go into the weeds of why smooth muscle is so like touching the autonomic nervous system?
Well, I mean, I think it's because like that's our controller, right? Of all the other things we can't control in our body.
I've just had a thought.
What?
That literally shit yourself is about loss of control. Or vomit, same thing. Like, yeah.
Totally. Totally. I mean, I guess it's just like with stress, right? With cortisol and all that kind of stuff. It's, the stress can, oh my God, I can see you're still thinking about that.
Oh, that topic comes up all the time. Shooting yourself.
Does it?
Often, yeah. Joe Rogan thinks he's got the real estate on shooting yourself, but we've talked about it's usually medically testing your poo. People like Art Green and Luke Taylor and Ben Warren, they're all into testing the poo.
Wow. Okay. I think we might have to talk about this offline.
Well, you could just go listen back,
There's so many questions. Yeah, I guess like the biggest thing for our bodies in this day and age is about getting down regulated and to help with de-stressing. And so Jack Moran, this amazing sexologist man who works a lot with anal health, he reckons that if you put a finger in your bum every day and give yourself like a little massage, you're hitting the autonomic nervous system and you are totally de-stressing, and you'll have such a better health. Because the saying, like people are, he's so anally retentive. It literally comes from this like, he's a tight ass. Like there are negative contexts to being all tight in there. To actually, like, sometimes I teach clients to anally breathe, and they use that sphincter like they would their mouth, and it helps with all the pelvic floor muscles and to actually relax, because we're just so tense in that area. And because that's conditioning from childhood as well, even like as a kid, like trying to put your hands down there and your mum's going, oh, get your hand, that's dirty, that's gross, yuck, yuck, yuck. We hear all these messages, yuck, 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 don't go there, but it's actually a beautiful tool to relaxation.
Yeah, and so your mum thought you were joining a sex cult, and those that have watched Wild Wild Country, Osho, that was basically a sex cult. But one of the like key sort of breath again techniques of that is sort of, if you're male, breathing into your balls, but it's really about like into your, I don't know what you'd call it, taint or perineum or whatever, into that sort of that area, and sort of really making that breath. And again, it's like releasing and relaxing. And it's funny you're saying about tight ass, like it's ultra running, there's definitely times when you start to tighten up and then you don't feel good, you're not very efficient, and it's just like, I've got to get to the dunny.
Yes, exactly. And and underneath that perineum, so the perineal sponge underneath there, it, like, sometimes if you push on it externally, it can feel really hard, almost like a rock. but it shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't be that tight. So, but it's mainly because we don't have the awareness of like the breath and relaxing fully down there. But if you, like the Chinese used to call that the $1 million spot, because directly up from there is where the G spot for a man is. That's where his prostate is. So say if you can actually like put your fist there, right, on the perineum and vibrate, and that will have a direct hit up to the prostate. And so that's the $1 million spot, because you're not having to actually go internal or anything like that. But yeah, the perineum is it's kind of underrated, I think. It's a good little nice piece of smooth skin.
So obviously there's probably a lot of people clenching that area right now as they're listening to this. And you brought up Chinese, I guess, medicine and, reflexology. There must be some other trigger points out there that can help relax that area, right? Is that correct? Where do people go? Again, feet have sort of been fetishized and made taboo, but if you're in Bali, I'd recommend you get a foot reflexology massage. Like, where are some spots that people can relax their smooth muscle with?
I don't know reflexology.
Oh no.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I guess I know. Well, I had to learn how to do soft cock massage, which I think is interesting, and Taoist massage, which is Taoist erotic massage, which is all in line with the Chinese medicine. But it's all about the blood flow, right, and the qi. And a lot of people have got stagnant energy in their pelvic bowl. So, and we're quite stiff, and that's kind of the first place to go, is that lower back, the sacrum, the hips. So, a little tip that I quite often get my clients to do is every morning when they're brushing their teeth is to write their name with their hips. And it's just one way of like getting the blood flow down there and the awareness of your genitals and that space. I mean, soft cock massage is an interesting one for men, because I reckon that society tells men that they need to be rock hard for pleasure. And I think if it's a woman and a man relationship, women obviously sometimes think, if there's not a hard cock, he's not into me, and what am I doing wrong? Instead of appreciating that a soft cock has still got a lot of power and can still have a lot of pleasure and still deserves to be touched and explored and can be a part of the whole process. Especially if we're not having these wham bam thank you ma'am moments, like it's part of a full picture, then a soft cock, should be welcomed in those areas. We can't expect the blood flow to keep a cock up for hours,
Do you think
what do you think about that?
I was going to say, do you think there's a little bit of irony to this, that, in terms of the vulva and female ejaculation, you could be at it for 40 minutes, yet if, and I guess it's probably our own worst enemy, that it's a very obvious offer on sort of visual and somatic response. It's harder, it's not. But, if you're wanting to bide the time and sort of get that peak pleasure, surely this is something to sort of explore and enhance and get the blood flowing and, work on your own area. Would I don't know, I'm not a sexologist, but it's just where I'm thinking.
Yeah, totally. I guess, so the period of like ejaculation for a man, like he goes into this refraction. So he actually does need recovery time, whereas a vulva owner, they don't, they can just keep going, and they're a receptacle, they can still receive, they can still, there's so many more options. So if we actually brought education in around soft cock as well, that would really help with that whole journey. So it isn't about just the erection, it's a big piece. But I mean, women, none of my friends, we've never talked about it. When I, in my wine coffee group, when I told them that week that I was learning soft cock massage, they were like, ooh, why? Well, why are you doing that? Like, they're so gross and floppy. And I was like, what? No, they're amazing, and then I proceeded to get a banana and teach them some things. But, it's just not taught about. We're just taught that a hard cock is what we want, and that's means sex, and we're on,
Yeah. So where's the root of it? Does it words? Yeah. What was sort of the educational process being taught to you of? Okay, so there's another way around this. This is still an effective intimacy moment. Here's why, basically, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, I mean, you sort of nailed it a little bit with the intimacy, because it is quite intimate, I think, for a man. He's sort of in a vulnerable state when he's soft, and to still be, I guess, like worshipped or held with reverence in that time, is that I think the whole conditioning, right, is about unraveling the patriarchy almost in these kind of moments, because we're doing things differently to what we've been taught. You never see a flaccid cock in porn. So the reason we do it is to show that the body in all states still deserves pleasure, and working with what we've got, I suppose, as well, because a lot of people, and especially as penis holders age, they will find that they have got a soft cock more often. And how do we still find pleasure in that?
And it's not just pornography, it's pharmaceuticals now. There's a drug to switch it on, and funnily enough, that's getting down to young people using stimulants.
Yes, that's a concern. I think, because a lot of my work is about getting people more embodied and to feel more. But these stimulants and drugs are all kind of numbing out the body as well. So it's kind of having the opposite effect of really feeling into the pleasures and the sensations in the body. Kind of worries me.
Yeah. And feel free to say you don't have an opinion on this. From the female perspective, with like birth control and sort of the male's responsibility. And I guess it, when you listen to some sort of feminists, they often talk about that birth control was empowering, and then there's another avenue of feminists that say no, it was reinforcing, the patriarchy of it, and that's going to quite a deep level. But and again, it's a sort of an intimate moment that, if as partners you can be in touch with the cycle, and obviously that comes with its risks, and the flow and the energies of the cycle, well then, you should have a better sex life. And two, hopefully, this is my opinion, hormonally the woman is more aligned, and there's even studies out there that their attraction is different on birth control than off birth control. And so as a partnership, if you're married and so forth, and then looking to family, if you're then all of a sudden going off birth control, then you might not like each other for a period of time. So and as I said, feel free not to comment, but where do you sort of stand on those sort of things?
I guess I am pro-choice about anything that anybody wants to do with their body. But I really, really support women learning about their own bodies and their own cycles, because I think there's a lack of education around that as well. They just get the fear put up them so much about pregnancy. They're told that they could get pregnant anytime throughout the cycle, and that's you just can't have sex any day without a condom. And it's like, well, there's really only a 3 to 5 day window where you are actually open to getting pregnant. I mean, you can technically get pregnant at any time, yes, but the likelihood is like 2% or 5%, or it's so slim. And when women are on hormonal birth control, they're not having their full cycle, so they are out of whack. They're not fully embodied. They're not like, on a even deeper sort of spiritual sense, we're so connected into the moon, and and so are the tides, and so is our menstrual flow. And so it is about honoring our body and in that place. And I think it's incredible what you said about that study, because we've got fake hormones, so our pheromones smell differently. So yes, we do attract different partners, say if we were on birth control when we met somebody, because we smell different. It's crazy. And then people come off birth control to have children, and then all of a sudden they're not into them anymore. And I've seen it with friends, and I've seen it with clients, and it's quite a scary thing. So I think it's about responsibility, about learning about your sexual response cycle, about your hormonal cycle. I mean, it's multi-layered, right? And I do believe if you're having partner sex with a man and a woman, that it is both people's responsibility about if you don't want to get pregnant, about what you do. So I like that you sort of reinforced that message as well.
Yeah, and of course, as I said, there is a risk, and like you said, it is possible. So, we're not removing the safe sex message either.
Not at all.
Yeah, no, you don't want to end up there. And I don't know. I guess let's dive into something that's coming up in the election and what that means for the world. You threw out a stat to me: 1 in 4 women may have, and this is unsure, but may have experienced an abortion, and that means partners as well. And I'm sure plenty of men are part of that. You'd imagine.
Yes.
So I hadn't thought about it until we just had that conversation yesterday, and it's like, there's a massive need now for the psychology and the sexual ramifications around that. Did you ever think of that as a capacity when you're entering the role of sexologist, that I'm going to have to deal with someone re-establishing their sexual drive, their sexual meaning, and potentially bringing new lives into the world when in the past they chose, for whatever their life position was, to not have a child?
No, I guess I didn't really. I knew the scope was so big that it could be anything, but I just think that women really need support in these areas because they have been slut shamed and made to feel guilty around sexual choices for so long. And I think the thing is that if it was something that happened to men, if it was a man that got pregnant, that just wouldn't be the case, and there would be so much support and stuff there. So I guess I've just gone, I was sharing with you, that I've gone and done this abortion support training. There overseas, there's death doulas, which, there's birth doulas that support women. They're like a midwife kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But they're
Doula, yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And so they're death doulas. So they come in and they become the advocate for this woman that's going to have an abortion, because sometimes they don't, we've had that law reform in New Zealand recently, which is great. But before that, you had to have 2 medical, people sign off that you were fit of mind and were okay to have this abortion. And it's just another way of controlling women's bodies. And so that also comes through a lack of education, and women don't know what's going to happen to their bodies. Where in New Zealand, we've actually got choices around what happens, what procedures happen. And so I want to educate and support in those ways. And also I think, you mentioned about, men go through it as well, and they get left out of the process. But they've definitely played a part in making that happen. So where do they fit into that? How do they get supported? How it all becomes about the woman at that point. And so it should, to a certain extent, but also how do men support and how are they supported?
So I guess it is really going to broaden our conversation. Like, it's been something that's swept under the rug, and there's going to be people come out from the woodwork, I think, from this. And I really apologize to anyone if this is triggering. But I think that there might be now some space for those feelings to be acknowledged, I think, as well, and worked through. So yes, like the feelings that you have might be bad and they might not be, but I think the reason that it does irk some reaction is because of the severity and also how it's been handled in the past. And so, you know, you've you've got to really acknowledge everyone in this type of thing, don't you?
Yeah, you do, and it's really interesting because yeah, you're right. It does. It stirs up different emotions in everybody, and even I've got a friend who is vegan, who is a strong feminist, but she would never support. Well, she supports women's choices, but she would never do it herself. She would never have an abortion because she believes in the value of life, right? Like with vegan choosing not to eat any kind of animals, or so she wouldn't then abort a child because that aligns with those values. And then there's the religion, like different religious views around it. So I think it almost goes back to the empathy that you and I were talking about, of just, you just don't know what's going on for somebody, or what their beliefs are, or why they would want to make different choices for themselves. And everybody has got a right to, choose what they bring into the world, whether that's, what they're contributing as a job, or what they contribute from their body. It's really is, I think, a very personal thing.
I guess lots of these things are sort of bringing about autonomy in ourselves, and that's one of the things when you look at sexuality, is that it seems very oppressive and get in line, and sexuality is so individualistic, and that's not to say that joint what's the sort of terms that, like, going along as a community and a we is bad, but I was listening to something the other day that we're trying to find this balance between we and capitalist, end of one spectrum, and extreme socialist, everyone's nothing, and we're just part of the mass of the being, and often it's about control and the various levers that we use to pull. But now with information so broadly open, and like you said, now we've got the ends of the spectrum of porn, and then your podcast, if you want to put it that way, where it's like a new renaissance of sex, isn't it? Like 60s probably was the last time, or maybe not. Maybe 90s Sex in the City and Friends.
Yeah, but it's almost like fashion. Like, it goes in full roundabouts. I mean, you think about the Greeks, man, They were wild. Like, they were having sex for breakfast, like, every day, and they were having sex with the same sex, and they were, doing some bad things as well. But, like, it's so interesting because I feel like it's been so out of kilter sexually, like for the sexes. Men were allowed to sort of be in power around that, and then I think women have sort of come up and had a bit of a reclamation of themselves and their bodies. And it's almost, and then there's been sort of this Me Too movement, about consent and what's right and what's not. But then I think it's almost like we're going too far over the edge. Like, these young women that I'm seeing, it's not a healthy, grounded sexuality where they are really, coming from a healthy place. And so I feel like we're getting to that point where hopefully now we sort of even out. We come back to the healthiness.
And what do you think? What do you think healthy is? Are you able to embellish that a little bit more?
Oh God, I guess one of my missions is about taking the taboo out of it, and so educating and bringing healthy. So when I say healthy sexuality, I'm talking about pleasure and things that feel good and things that are legal, and just normalizing it. Whereas I think because of this taboo, it has turned a lot of people underground and has almost created this whole community and this shadow side of sex, and that's, I mean, and because people don't talk about a lot of the downsides to sexual abuse. Well, I mean, sexual abuse is just fucking horrific anyways, but people don't talk about it within families. They don't out predators. People don't feel safe to speak their truth about what's happened. That I think, yeah, I think because it's been taboo, those things have been able to be, yeah, things have gotten, I don't know, people have gotten away with too much for too long. And so by shining a light on sexuality and teaching people what is healthy, which I guess is so big as well, I don't even know how to fully, I guess, answer your question around that. But all I can say is it is individualistic, and it is about being grounded in and knowing what feels right in your body. So boundaries and consent, which is also another thing that we don't get taught about. We don't get taught it somatically to know how that actually feels, what an absolute full body yes feels like and what a full body no feels like. Because we get conditioned even from so young, like, oh, go and hug Uncle Tim. He's given you a present. And you're like, I don't want to hug Uncle Tim. Go and hug Uncle Tim. He's given you a present. And so that child doesn't want to do that. They feel a no in their body, but their parent is telling them that they need to go and touch and be held by another human. So, I mean, what kind of a message is that little human has to then take into the world? God, it's so big.
Yeah. No, yeah, the hugging thing's strange, isn't it? That's something that even with my daughter, it's like changing the language from can I have a hug when I'm going by and say I want to give you a hug, and does she want to give me a hug? Well, then that's fine, depending on how she feels. And that's again something that you just never would have thought about for probably 5 years ago. I don't know.
Totally. But do you find as you learn more that you implement those kind of different things with your daughter?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's one of those things that you just it's not in your consciousness, and you so when you're unconscious, you're just doing things on autopilot, and so you just do need those little switches, like you said about Me Too there. Like there's probably plenty of us guys out there that have thought, oh shit, plenty of our decisions overstepped the mark, or we read the situation wrong, and it for many of us it would have blew up. Those that know me personally know that I had a situation at uni that blew up, and it was it was dealt with and suffered the consequences of that. But again, it's like you don't have the education, you don't have the skills, the understanding, like you say, those real firm boundaries of and that's what I think has been really, really positive about Me Too, is that it's snapped the unconscious out of everyone to go, how did I act then? What was I doing? What was influencing me in those situations? And so now moving forward, you can be sure of your own boundaries and acknowledge those of others, I guess, is what that's teaching us, I think. It's from my perspective.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's been interesting to watch, because some men who haven't really gotten on board with that, I've seen them sort of say things general out in the world like, well, I don't even know how to be with women now. I don't even know how to approach a woman without upsetting her or crossing the bar. And it's like, dude, like, get a reality check here. It's all about communication. That's what consent is,
Yeah.
And if it's not verbal communication, you've had to have some form of verbal communication to decide that you don't need verbal communication to still have communication and give consent that way. So it always comes back to clear communication.
Yeah, and that's exactly the Bill Burr joke. That people take offence with the likes of that Bill Burr joke about like the no is always no thing, and he's joking. And I guess again that's another, and that's what comedy is doing, is creating this sort of way to laugh at yourself and your own mistake. I think that's the real intention of a lot of comedy. That's sort of like, oh, that's I'm offended by that. Well, actually, they're actually educating someone by a different angle, I think. Well, that's my opinion, and some people don't have to share that opinion either.
Yeah, I don't know that joke that you're specifically talking about.
It's on Paper Tiger, which is on Netflix. Very, very funny, and he's just going on. But he actually gets in the special. He gets heckled, and when he's trying to tee up this joke, and he included it in the special. It's quite funny. And yeah, then he had a lot of kickback from it, which Bill Burr gets kickback all the time. Even President Trump goes after him.
Look, I think anything that is going to like start a conversation, open up a conversation about things is great.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody is entitled to an opinion. I mean, some people's is fucked up and some are wrong, but some other people will have opinions, and it's a good starting place, you know, for people to learn and hear different things and feel like that doesn't feel right in my body, hearing them making a joke about that. It's like, let's get curious about that feeling. What is that about? What do you believe? So it's good.
Yeah, and like that was the same with the Nikki Glazer podcast that I sent you. You know, that was sort of 2 hours of her talking about porn and where she's at with porn and how she enjoys watching it, but it feels like bad for the people that she's watching. And it was just like, and it was shortly after you'd shared about the Tinder defense and how, you know, that upset you. And I was like, well, like, if that's what's stemming these sort of actions, in terms of, you can't call them relationships, but interactions, I guess. Yet here's someone that's openly dialoguing their moral contradiction with this industry. It was like 2 hours of, it was confronting, but it was at the same time like you say, it opens up the thought patterns. And like, you know, I hope no one's out there saying shut down Nikki Glazer, but at the same time you can see that a conversation like that, you know, again going back to the it's also taboo, means that, you know, she might suffer from what she said in those 2 hours.
Well, totally. But also, you know, she's giving other people permission to talk openly about their experiences with porn as well. And anything that people can see, you know, representation is important. And at least she's exploring the dark side as well, you know, and she's sharing all her ins and outs of how she's feeling and the experiences of it. And I think that's the thing. Some people, they wouldn't share. They would just say, oh yeah, I watch porn. But, you know, lots of people do feel guilty about it, or there's so many things that go into porn. I mean, I remember as soon as I turned 16, was it 16? Going to the video store. How old would I have to have been? 18. Would I have to have been 18?
Yeah.
To hide porn? Yeah, as soon as I hide porn, me and my friend Nikki, we went into the back room, you know, that had the curtain. It was all of that fed into the excitement, was the hidingness of everything. And I think it was alien porn. It was really weird.
No, it's funny you talk about the back room, and, you know, I don't know if this was a positive or a negative influence on my life, but I remember on my first national swimming trip, I think I was fourth form, so I must have been 14 or 15, and that was myself and another girl. We had to go walk into behind the curtain and get kicked out of there. You know, I guess you don't know if that was positive or negative or indifferent in your sexual development, but they're the sort of things that you like look back on, and, like, you know, the FHMs and the Ralph magazines, and that was what I was gonna say to you. This is probably my growing up a really, really confusing thing looking back, in that a lot of the sexual education I got was from Cosmopolitan, from friends that were reading Cosmopolitan. Now, what a confusing message that is, that you're reading the magazine from the girl you like about the things that she should be doing. How bizarre. And you're like 15 or 16.
Cosmopolitan has actually got a lot to answer for, I've got to be honest, for our generation.
Yeah. And Ralph.
Did you reckon?
What did you say?
I didn't think their advice was good. It was terrible. And I think that at that time it was very much like, I don't know, it was a different time, I think, as well. It was like women weren't really empowered. Consent wasn't a big thing, as big as it is now.
Yeah, no, I looking retrospectively, I think like, man, that was confusing setup. Like Ralph and F18 would just have like obviously the bikini clad bits, and then there'd be one article that would be like a confessions part, and then the odd letter. You know, there was nothing educational or authentic. It gave you a wrong perspective of women, sure, but then I remember being on swimming trips and then grabbing the you know, all us guys would grab the Cosmos off the girls because they had like more juicy stuff in there.
Yeah, and I feel like all the advice was really like game playing, and this is how you get him to like you, and roll your top down when you walk past, and you know, do a wink, or I don't know, all these kind of unhealthy situational things instead of like real honest connecting as humans.
Yeah, it was almost like it was instilling manipulation, eh?
Totally. Yes.
Reinforcing manipulation. No, it's yeah, that's pretty confusing. That was something I thought of the other day when I knew that we were going to have a chat. I was like, wonder what you reckon of the Cosmo Day. I wonder if is it still around?
Yeah, Cosmopolitan's still around. You know, there was like the Girlfriend magazine and stuff, and then had to do like a sealed section,
Yes.
the After Dark, you know, or see how much like sex is shamed, you know, and hidden. Everything has to be hidden. And, you know, even I was doing on my Instagram the other day, I did the 12 days of pleasure.
Yeah.
And then I had that realization about guilty pleasures and how the whole marketing world uses guilty pleasures as this way to make us feel like we need that, but it's a secret, and we should feel guilty about having pleasure, and really all it's doing is still in like reinforcing this belief that pleasure is bad.
Yeah,
but nobody really makes the link that guilty pleasures just
yeah. So you brought up your 12 days of pleasure, and of course you had the pleasure of the different kind of being locked down for wartime up there in Auckland. What was the sort of response to every day getting an Instagram, you know, peek behind the curtain of a sexologist? What was the response like?
Yeah, people were into it.
They had nothing else to do, eh? No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's why I thought it would be good. And obviously because, you know, I do work with the nervous system, I thought this was a really good chance that if people were a bit more, you know, in their fight or flight sort of system, that I thought that they could down-regulate and chill out a little bit. So pleasure is a good way. And I really fly the flag of embodiment, and to feel pleasure you have to be in your body and to be really feeling, and people were really into it, and got some great feedback, got some interesting pictures from people unsolicited. Thank you very much. I got invited to join a couple to make it 13 days of pleasure with them. You know, I just think I have clear boundaries, but I can't judge people for reaching out, because I have created a safe, open container for exploring sexuality and trying different things and being brave and having different kind of conversations.
No, it's awesome. You should be very proud, and I think it takes gigantic courage. Like my heart rate is way down now. I'm feeling good and relaxed.
I'm pleased.
Yeah, no. So which is great, and hopefully, you know, as I said at the start, this is reaching 80% men. Hopefully, it's, you know, planting a few seeds, starting a few conversations. You know, all those people that are in relationships, that it's sort of opening up a container. I thought one of the best sort of what to show up for you in your life answers I got was from Kieran Island, from The Educated Hunter, and you know, we were having a whole hour conversation about hunting, and then he finished off with learning your love languages. And I thought I love moments like that just, you know, can sneak in another piece of information. So hopefully we've got all these guys in New Zealand out there to show up to this conversation, and they've hung in there. And if you have hung in there, bloody awesome, and learned a lot. So, what's happening for you right now and into the future, Morgan?
Well, I'm still studying. I'm doing extra studying on top of just being a sexologist. Like I said, the abortion training and vaginismus. Sounds like Christmas for
yes,
the vagina.
I was thinking it sounded like Christmas.
It's really not. That's painful sex. So I'm learning how to work somatically through overcoming that. And I've got a book offer on the table to write a book, and maybe a TV show. And me and Sharyn are working on season 2 of the podcast. So it's all very exciting. We'll just see what happens. As long as I can be out in the world spreading the sex positive message, I am happy.
And where is the podcast? Is it just Rover or elsewhere as well?
No, it's on Apple and iTunes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's it under? Come on.
The Trainee Sexologist. And okay, I will tell you what the new name is for season 2, shall I?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, okay, there's not a huge difference. It's called The Trained with a big D. Like, I love the D.
Was there a big meeting about this name, by the way?
Yes. Absolutely. I had to fight for the D.
Yeah. I love it. And so people has the Instagram name changed as well then?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so watch out for that name. But they can find you at Morgan _Penn, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I'm sharing a lot of stuff on there. And also I haven't got my website sorted yet, but you can send me a direct message if you'd be keen to work with me.
Cool. And I'm sure it'll just be there in your bio when it's ready. Hey.
The what?
We got some feedback there. I said your website will just be there in your bio when it's ready. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's right. I mean, I've got my my logo done, and it's a vulva, like as the rising sun.
Vulvas are everywhere. Everyone's going to be, well, first some people might need to Google what a vulva is, but then they're going to be seeing vulvas everywhere.
Yes, this excites me.
Yeah, nice. So it probably is just vulvas, but what's something that continually shows up in your life that when things are going well, it's there, or something that never does you wrong? It can be a quote, the way you live your life by, a saying, just a behaviour. Yeah, what's something that really always shows up and does you well?
So it's, for me, huheke, which is flow. So it's nice. About the ease of life. And that's where it feels good, and you know that that's exactly where you're meant to be, and everything just works out really well. So when I'm in this state of like, or not feeling good or scattered in my tummy, I look for the root. Again, I can't believe you made me say that. The root of the flow, you know, I become like the river. I go back to nature. I find my flow. Nice.
And plenty of videos of you standing on the shoreline and getting in that flow. It's awesome. Morgan, this has been fantastic. As I said at the start, I was petrified. And I'm glad we've probably cut down some of the taboo around all this, because this is a hugely empowering conversation. And thank you so much for all that you do. And I encourage people to go check out your podcast, even if they just go and get a taster with J. Reeve, because that's a good entrance point.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for showing up in your vulnerability and your accelerated heart rate. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
No, awesome. Thanks. I'm going to press pause. Stay there.